The travel agent's 3 eyes widened in horror as he stared at the application form. You want to go, where? Tom Miller, a human from Earth, stood proudly before the alien's desk. His weathered face showed the marks of someone who grew up on a planet that actively tried to kill its inhabitants daily. Paradise Resort on Magnus Prime. I heard it's the most relaxing vacation spot in the galaxy. The travel agent, Mr. Blue, as humans called his kind due to their blue skin, tried to keep his professional composure. Humans were still new to the galactic community, and most species hadn't yet grasped that these Deathworlders could survive conditions that would kill most sentient beings. Mr. Miller, Magnus Prime has 3 times Earth's gravity, daily acid rain, and temperatures that swing between boiling and freezing within hours. The resort there was built for Titanians, silicon-based life forms that consider molten rock a comfortable bath. Tom grinned, pulling out his credit chip. Sounds perfect. I've been working in the Australian outback for 15 years. This'll be like a walk in the park. Mr. Blue's tentacles trembled as he processed the booking. He had heard stories about humans, but this was his first time meeting one who perfectly matched their species' reputation for what most aliens considered insanity. The resort management requires all non-Titanian guests to sign 17 different liability waivers, Mr. Blue explained, his voice quivering. And I must inform you that in the resort's 1,000-year history, no non-Titanian has ever completed a full stay. Well, Tom said, cracking his knuckles, there's a first time for everything. Besides, my wife Jane's coming too. She thinks it'll be a nice break from her job at the Volcanic Research Station. As Tom walked out with his booking confirmed, Mr. Blue quickly sent a message to his supervisor. The humans were coming to Magnus Prime, and the galaxy would never be the same. Little did anyone know that this vacation would not only change how the galaxy viewed humans but would also save the lives of everyone at Paradise Resort. Because something far more dangerous than acid rain and crushing gravity was about to arrive on Magnus Prime, and only the crazy Deathworlders from Earth would be tough enough to face it. The shuttle descent to Magnus Prime felt like riding a roller coaster through a tornado. Most species would have passed out from the strain, but Tom and Jane Miller simply grinned at each other, treating it like a theme park ride. Reminds me of that storm season in Queensland, Jane said, casually checking her tablet as the shuttle jerked violently. The Titanian pilot, encased in their crystalline environment suit, couldn't hide their amazement at the humans' calm demeanor. Paradise Resort emerged from the swirling purple clouds, a massive structure carved into the side of an active volcano. Rivers of lava flowed around its reinforced walls, and crystalline towers rose into the acidic sky. The entire complex was designed to withstand forces that would level most cities. Now that's what I call a view, Tom whistled, pressing his face against the window like an excited child. The shuttle's hull creaked under the increasing pressure as they descended. The welcome committee consisted of 3 Titanians, their silicon-based bodies gleaming under the resort's protective shields. The head manager, who introduced themselves as Crystal Song in Magma, or just Crystal, for the humans' benefit, couldn't hide their surprise when Tom and Jane stepped out without environmental suits. You're exposed to the atmosphere. Crystal's crystalline form vibrated with concern. The gravity alone should dash. Oh, this? Jane adjusted her backpack with ease. It's only 3 times Earth gravity. I packed some extra snacks since we'll be burning more calories. She pulled out what looked like a military-grade protein bar, offering it to Crystal, who politely declined. The resort's orientation briefing was unlike any other. While most guests received warnings about the lethal environment, the Millers got cautionary tales about not disturbing other guests' lava baths or accidentally breaking the reinforced furniture designed for beings 3 times their density. And please, Crystal added, refrain from your Earth habit of swimming in the liquid nitrogen pools. They're meant for cooling our quantum computers. Tom looked disappointed. What about the lava tubes? The brochure mentioned cave exploration. Crystal's crystalline structure almost cracked from shock. Those are maintenance tunnels, not tourist attractions. The temperature in there exceeds dash. Perfect for a morning jog, Jane interrupted, already marking them on her map. We humans need to stay active on vacation. As the Millers settled into their room, specially modified to include what the resort considered freezing temperature controls, Crystal rushed to update the staff protocols. Nobody had prepared for guests who viewed the resort's deadly features as entertainment. But in the depths of those same lava tubes that Tom was so eager to explore, something stirred. Ancient sensors, dormant for centuries, began detecting unusual movements. The resort's AI system, programmed to monitor for every conceivable threat, couldn't categorize what it was seeing. And as the humans unpacked their vacation gear, which strangely resembled military survival equipment, they had no idea they would soon be the only thing standing between Paradise Resort and a threat that even the Titanians couldn't handle. The first sign that something was wrong came during Tom and Jane's morning stroll through the maintenance tunnels. While other guests enjoyed gentle mineral baths in carefully regulated chambers, the humans had somehow convinced Crystal to give them access to the service corridors, for exercise purposes. Did you feel that? Jane stopped, pressing her hand against the reinforced wall. The vibration was different from the usual volcanic activity. After years of studying Earth's volcanoes, she knew something wasn't right. Tom wiped sweat from his forehead, enjoying the sauna-like conditions of the tunnel. Feels like the tremors we got before that mine collapse in Western Australia. But deeper. Above them, in the resort's main control room, alarms began flashing. Crystal and their staff watched in confusion as sensor readings showed movement patterns that didn't match any known geological activity. The resort's AI system, designed to predict every possible natural disaster, was giving contradictory warnings. The humans. Crystal suddenly vibrated in realization. They must have damaged something in the maintenance tunnels. But when they checked the camera feeds, they saw Tom and Jane doing something unexpected. They were methodically mapping the vibration patterns. These tremors aren't random, Jane explained over the comm system, her voice steady despite the increasing temperature around her. They're following a pattern. Almost like footsteps. The resort's other guests, mostly Titanians enjoying their regular lava spa treatments, remained blissfully unaware of the growing concern. Their silicon-based bodies couldn't detect the subtle changes that Jane's experienced human senses had picked up. Tom pulled out what looked like primitive Earth equipment, a simple seismic detector he'd packed, just in case. The readings made his eyes widen. Remember those ancient creatures we found fossilized in Earth's deep mines? The ones that lived in the planet's core? Before Jane could respond, a massive tremor shook the entire resort. This time, even the Titanians felt it. In the central atrium, the decorative lava fountains surged wildly, and the quantum cooling systems began overloading. Crystal's voice came over the resort-wide announcement system, trying to maintain calm. Attention all guests, we are experiencing some minor geological disturbances. Please proceed to your designated safety zones. They were cut off by a sound that shouldn't have been possible, a deep, resonating roar that came from within the planet itself. The maintenance tunnel walls around Tom and Jane began to crack, revealing something moving behind them. Well, honey, Tom said, reaching into his backpack for what looked suspiciously like mining explosives, looks like we found something that makes Earth's wildlife look tame. Jane quickly pulled up the resort structural plans on her tablet. The main support columns won't hold if whatever's down there keeps growing. And I'm pretty sure it's growing. As emergency sirens blared throughout Paradise Resort, the Titanian staff realized something incredible. The only guests who weren't panicking were the supposedly fragile humans. In fact, Tom and Jane were already gearing up for what they called a typical Tuesday. Crystal watched in disbelief as the humans began coordinating with each other, using their experience with Earth's deadly environments to formulate a plan. Perhaps, they realized, these Deathworlders weren't crazy after all. They might be the only ones capable of handling what was about to emerge from the depths of Magnus Prime. The creature that burst through the maintenance tunnel wall made Earth's most dangerous predators look like house pets. Its body was composed of living crystal and magma, with multiple limbs that phased between solid and liquid states. The heat it radiated would have instantly vaporized most species in the galaxy. Tom and Jane, however, just shared an excited look. "Reminds me of that time we found that underground crystal cave system in New Zealand," Jane said, already taking readings with her equipment. "Except this one's alive. And angry." The creature roared again, its crystalline body pulsing with internal energy. Through the resort's communication system, Crystal watched in horror as the humans did something completely unexpected. They started taking pictures. "This is amazing." Tom's voice crackled over the comm, the way it manipulates the surrounding magma. "Jane, are you getting this? It's like a silicon-based version of Earth's deep-sea life. Less studying, more surviving." Crystal's panicked voice interrupted. "The resort's structural integrity is failing. All guests are evacuating." Jane quickly analyzed the creature's movement patterns. "It's not just destroying things randomly. Look at how it's targeting the resort's main support columns. It's intelligent." Above them, Paradise Resort was in chaos. Titanian guests rushed to their escape pods, their crystalline bodies vibrating with fear. The resort's AI system was overwhelmed, trying to manage the evacuation while monitoring the rapidly deteriorating structural integrity. Tom pulled out more equipment from his seemingly endless supply of survival gear. "Remember that mining technique we used to redirect lava flows during the Indonesian eruption? I've got an idea." "Already ahead of you," Jane replied, pulling up the resort's geological surveys on her tablet. "If we can lead it to the northern magma chamber, there's a natural pressure point we can use." Crystal, monitoring their conversation, couldn't believe what they were hearing. "You want to fight it? That thing is literally made of the same material as our strongest battleships." "Nah, not fight it," Tom said, setting up what looked like modified mining charges. "We're going to reason with it. And if that doesn't work..." He patted his equipment bag meaningfully. The creature surged forward, its massive form filling the tunnel. But instead of running, the humans stood their ground. Jane had noticed something in its movement patterns. It was protecting something behind it. "Tom," she called out, "check your thermal imaging. There's a cluster of smaller heat signatures behind it. I don't think it's attacking the resort, it's defending its nest." The revelation changed everything. While the resort's AI warned of imminent structural collapse and Crystal coordinated the evacuation of the remaining guests, Tom and Jane were formulating a plan that only humans would consider possible. They were going to try to relocate an entire family of magma creatures. "You're going to what?" Crystal's voice hit a frequency that almost shattered nearby crystals. "Those things are literally made of molten rock. Trust us," Jane said, already calculating safe passage routes through the resort's lower levels. "We've handled territorial mother creatures before. The trick is to give them a better option." As the resort shook around them and emergency systems blared warnings, the two humans began implementing their crazy plan. After all, compared to handling angry cassowaries in Australia or redirecting lava flows in Hawaii, how hard could it be to reason with a family of crystalline magma monsters? "If we're going to move a family of magma creatures," Tom said while checking his equipment, "we're going to need something to attract them." He looked at the resort's lava pools with a gleam in his eye that made Crystal very nervous. Jane was already working on calculations. The resort's lava pools are artificially heated for guest comfort. But according to these readings, the natural magma chambers below the resort are much richer in minerals. Perfect for raising a family of magma creatures. The mother creature watched them curiously, its crystalline body shifting colors as it assessed these strange beings who neither fled nor attacked. Behind it, Several smaller shapes moved in the molten rock, its children, each about the size of a small car. "Crystal," Jane called over the comm, "I need you to redirect all power to the northern sector's magnetic field generators. We're going to make a path these creatures can't resist." "That's not what those generators are for," Crystal protested, but they were already implementing Jane's request. After all, the humans' crazy ideas were the only plan they had. Tom began setting up his modified mining equipment in a careful pattern. "Just like herding cattle through the outback," he said cheerfully. "Except these cattle are made of lava and could dissolve steel." The resort's remaining guests watched from their evacuation shelters as the humans executed their plan. Using the resort systems in ways their designers never imagined, they created a trail of mineral-rich magma flows, carefully temperature-controlled to attract the creatures. "Look at that," Jane pointed excitedly. "The babies are responding to the mineral concentration. Just like Earth's sea turtles following warm currents." The mother creature turned its massive head, sensing the rich new magma flow. Its crystalline body sparkled with interest as its children began moving toward the attractive new path. "That's it, beautiful," Tom coaxed, using the mining charges to carefully widen the passage. "We've found you a much better neighborhood. No noisy resort guests, better food, perfect temperature." Crystal and the resort staff watched in amazement as the family of magma creatures began following the humans' carefully crafted path. The mother creature moved cautiously, constantly checking on her children, but clearly interested in the mineral-rich destination being offered. "The structural integrity is still critical," Crystal warned. "The damage to the lower levels dash." "Already on it," Jane interrupted, pulling up more resort schematics. "Tom's charges aren't just for making paths. Once the creatures are clear, we can use them to trigger controlled collapses. Seal off the damaged sections completely." The evacuation pods remained on standby as the humans continued their work. Other species might have seen the magma creatures as monsters to be destroyed, but Tom and Jane saw them as just another example of life adapting to extreme conditions, not unlike humans themselves. "You know what?" Tom said as they watched the last of the baby creatures slide into the new magma chamber, their crystalline bodies glowing with contentment. "This is actually turning out to be a pretty good vacation. Much more interesting than just sitting in a lava-hot tub." Jane laughed, already documenting the creature's behavior patterns. Only humans would consider relocating a family of magma monsters as relaxing holiday activity. But their work wasn't done yet. The resort's damaged sections still needed to be secured, and there was no guarantee the creatures wouldn't try to return. As Crystal began calculating the cost of repairs, they realized this incident would change how the galaxy viewed both humans and Paradise Resort forever. The next day at Paradise Resort looked very different from what anyone had expected. Instead of cleaning up destruction, the staff was busy setting up observation posts around the new magma chamber. News of the incident had spread across the galaxy, and suddenly, Paradise Resort was famous for an entirely new reason. "You want us to what?" Tom asked, looking at Crystal in surprise. The resort manager's crystalline form sparkled with excitement. "Become our chief wildlife consultants. Your understanding of extreme environment adaptations is unique and clearly valuable." Jane was already setting up monitoring equipment around the magma chamber where the creatures had settled. "The babies are thriving in the mineral-rich environment. Their crystal structures are growing at an amazing rate. This could be a completely new species." The resort's guests had returned, but now they weren't just coming for the lava spas. They wanted to see the legendary magma creatures and, more surprisingly, the humans who had handled them. Tour groups gathered at the newly installed observation windows, watching in awe as Tom and Jane worked. "And here," Tom explained to a group of fascinated Titanian tourists, "you can see how the mother creature uses magnetic fields to guide her young. Not that different from how Earth's sea turtles use magnetic navigation." Crystal had never seen anything like it. The resort's reputation was transforming from an exclusive spa to a unique wildlife sanctuary. Bookings had tripled, with guests from across the galaxy hoping to witness what they now called the Magnus Prime Magma Dragons. "We've received requests from 17 different scientific institutions," Crystal told the humans. "They all want to study the creatures. And your methods." Jane looked up from her tablet, where she was recording the family's behavior patterns. "As long as we maintain a safe distance and respect their territory. We don't want another resort evacuation." The resort's AI system had been reprogrammed with new protocols based on the humans' insights. Instead of just monitoring for threats, it now tracked the creatures' movements and behavior patterns, learning to predict their needs and moods. "You know what the funny thing is?" Tom said as he helped install new heat-resistant cameras. "Back on Earth, this is pretty much standard procedure for wildlife management. You just have to adjust your thinking for creatures made of magma instead of flesh and blood." Even the resort structure had been modified. The damaged sections weren't just repaired, they were redesigned with the creatures in mind. New corridors allowed for safe observation, while reinforced barriers protected both guests and the magma family's privacy. "The galaxy's first magma creature sanctuary," Crystal announced proudly. "And it's all thanks to two humans who wouldn't take certain death as a warning." As they watched the mother creature teaching her young to shape crystalline structures in the magma flow, Jane couldn't help but smile. Maybe this is why humans needed to evolve on a death world. Someone has to be crazy enough to see the beauty in extreme conditions. The resort's new brochure now featured pictures of the magma creatures alongside its luxury amenities. But more importantly, it featured a new understanding of life in the galaxy. Sometimes, the most dangerous places held the most amazing discoveries. And sometimes, it took a species crazy enough to vacation in lethal conditions to help others see that beauty. "So," Tom asked Crystal, "about that lava tube hiking trail we suggested." Crystal's crystalline form shimmered with what might have been a sigh. Some things about humans would never change. And maybe that was exactly what the galaxy needed. 6 months after the Magma Dragon incident, Paradise Resort had become the most famous tourist destination in 3 galaxy arms. The observation deck overlooking the magma chamber was packed with visitors from hundreds of worlds, all eager to catch a glimpse of the unique family of creatures that had changed how the galaxy viewed extreme environments. "And here we have the youngest magma dragon learning to form its first crystal shells," Jane explained to an enthusiastic tour group. The small creature, now the size of a shuttle, playfully swirled through the mineral-rich magma while visitors recorded the moment on their devices. Tom, meanwhile, was leading what he called an advanced adventure tour, teaching properly equipped visitors how to safely navigate the outer edges of the lava tubes. "The secret," he told his wide-eyed audience, "is understanding that danger doesn't mean hostile. It's just nature being nature." Crystal had embraced the resort's new identity with enthusiasm. The once nervous manager now proudly showed off holovids of the magma dragons to potential guests. "Thanks to our human consultants, we've discovered 12 more families of magma creatures in the surrounding regions. Paradise Resort is now officially a protected wildlife sanctuary." The resort's success had sparked a revolution in galactic tourism. Other deadly planets were being re-evaluated, not as places to avoid, but as potential havens for undiscovered life forms. And at the forefront of each expedition were human consultants, bringing their unique perspective on surviving hostile environments. The galaxy was so focused on making everywhere safe and comfortable, Jane said during an interview with Galactic Geographic, that they missed the wonderful adaptations life can make to extreme conditions. Sometimes the most amazing discoveries are in places everyone else avoids. The original magma dragon family had become celebrities in their own right. The mother creature, now nicknamed Ruby by the staff, had grown comfortable enough with her human neighbors to put on regular displays of crystal forming. Her children, each developing their own unique crystalline patterns, had become favorites among regular visitors. "You know what the best part is?" Tom said to Crystal as they watched a newly installed magnetic field generator being tested. This was supposed to be a relaxing vacation. Instead, we helped discover a new species, revolutionized galactic tourism, and created the first extreme environment wildlife sanctuary. Crystal's crystalline form shimmered with what had become recognizable as laughter. "And you humans still insist on calling our resort relaxing. We've had to add warning signs in 17 languages telling guests not to try copying your lava tube expeditions." The resort's gift shop now sold plush toys of magma dragons alongside the usual souvenirs. There was even a popular Hollywood series called Death World Rangers, inspired by Tom and Jane's adventure, teaching young viewers across the galaxy about respecting and understanding extreme environment creatures. "We've received an interesting proposal," Crystal announced one day. "The Galactic Science Council wants to establish a research center here. They're calling it the Human Perspective Initiative, studying how your species' unique viewpoint can help us better understand hostile environments." Jane looked up from her latest readings of the magma dragon's crystal patterns. "Does this mean we'll get funding for that deep core expedition we talked about? The sensors are showing some interesting movement patterns in the planet's lower mantle." "Already approved," Crystal said, their crystalline form flickering with what might have been resignation. "Though I still think calling it a fun research project is very human of you." As the sun set over Magnus Prime, casting the acidic clouds in brilliant purple hues, Tom and Jane stood at their favorite observation point. Below them, Ruby was teaching her youngest how to create complex crystal structures, while tourists from across the galaxy watched in wonder. "Not bad for a vacation, eh?" Tom said, putting his arm around his wife. Jane smiled, already making notes for their next expedition. "Just another day in paradise. Though I hear there's a nice resort on an ice planet that needs consultants."